Today we're working on 10.3, which is solving quadratic equations. After this lesson, you will be able to solve quadratic equations by graphing, and you will also be able to solve quadratic equations using square roots. Some of the basic things you guys need to know here. A quadratic equation is the equation that can be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So this is the quadratic equation. Now, a quadratic equation can have 1, 2, or no solutions. So everything that we do, you are going to have, the answer is going to have 1 solution in it, 2 solutions in it, or no solutions. It's also important to note that the solutions of a quadratic equation are often called either the zeros of the function or the roots of the equations. Now, I like zeros of the function, and you're going to see why here in a second. We look at some examples, but understanding zeros of the function, we're looking for the solutions, and I'm going to call them the zeros of the function. So our solutions are either 1, 2, or no solutions of a quadratic equation, and this is the standard form of the quadratic equation. That there's an A, B, and C, and directions say solve each equation by graphing the related function. Now, the important piece here is that we're going to go through, there's being 1 solution, 2 solutions, and no solutions. Okay, so we're going to be able to take a look at all 3 different types of solutions to a quadratic equation from this. So the very first thing we're going to do here is we have to graph what they asked us to start with. So they gave us 2 times x squared equals 0. You're going to solve this quadratic equation by graphing, and we need to identify if there's 1 solution, 2 solutions, or no solutions. First thing we're going to do is notice from what we've already talked about that this is really 2x squared plus 0. And this is going to equal our y. So we know we can graph it here at 0. 0 is going to be my vertex, so plug in 0 for x squared. So 0 squared is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is going to equal y. So we're just plugging in, we're creating a table all on one side of a vertex, and we know the y-intercept here is at 0. That was that c value that we've talked about in previous lessons. So we got 0, we're going to get 0. Now let's go over 1. Let's put in 1 for x. 1 squared is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. So 1 up 2. Next one is 2. Plug in 2 for your x. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So go over 2 and up 8, which is here. So now we know at my vertex, which we found yesterday, so my vertex was negative b over 2a. So my b value, so this really should have a 0x plus 0. So my b value is 0. So negative 0 over 2 times 2 is still going to give you 0. So my vertex, plug in 0. 0 for x is going to give you 0y. So here's my vertex, which is what we had already found. And we know my axis of symmetry is at 0. Now I can just reflect my points and make my graph. Now, since we are solving this by graphing, understand I called this the zeros of the function. So how many times does my graph hit my x equals 0, y equals 0 here? How many times? Well, it hits 1. So there is going to be 1 solution, and the solution is at x equals 0, because that is where this graph is crossing 0 at. Okay, so understanding this is where y equals 0. That's what I'm looking for, my zeros. How many times it crosses this x-axis, and what those points are. So it crosses once and it crosses at x equals 0. Take a look at our next graph here. Once again, let's find my vertex, which is negative b over 2a. My b value, remember this is going to be plus 0x plus 2. So it's still going to be a 0 at the vertex. Now we plug in 0 for my axis of symmetry, which is at 0. Plug in 0, we're going to get 2. So I know my vertex is going to be at 0, 2. So they've already graphed this, but let's make ours 0, 2. Here. Now, I need to find some more points along the one side so then I can reflect it across the axis of symmetry. So create my table. I know 0, 2, so let's try 1. 1, plug in 1 for your x. 1 squared is 1, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4. So I have 1, 4 as another point. My next one, let's go 2. 2 squared is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 plus 2 is 10. So 2 and then 10 is about here. So I know my vertex is at 0, 2. So this means my axis of symmetry is through here. Reflect over, reflect, connect your dots to create this red shape. Now, my question, how many times does it cross here at my zeros? How many times does it cross the x-axis? Well, there is no x-intercepts, so because it never crosses, this is going to be the example where there is a no solution. The last equation here, 2x squared minus 2 equals 0. Understanding, we rewrite that, and I'm asking you to graph y equals 2x squared minus 2. You can find your vertex using yesterday's stuff, negative b over 2a. My b value is still 0. Over 2 times 2 is 4. 0 over 4. I'm still going to have an axis of symmetry at 0. That is my x term when I plug this in. Plug 0 back in. So 0 squared, 0. 2 times 0, 0. Minus 2. My y value is going to be at negative 2. So my vertex is here. My vertex is there. I know my axis of symmetry is along this line. I need to find one side of my parabola so then I can reflect it over. Understand on your assignment here, you're not going to see this red shape. You're creating the red shape. But it's kind of that piece to help you understand what you're really doing. So I need to create my table, x, y, and I've already plugged in 0. I got negative 2, so let's plug in 1. 1 squared is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 minus 2, we get a 0. So 1, 0. Is a point. Plug in 2. And I'm running out of room, so I'm going to just kind of right over top. 2. 2 squared is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 2 is going to get 6. So 2, 6. So I've got my points. I'm going to reflect them across my axis of symmetry here and down here. So understand when the directions said solve this equation by graphing. Once you've graphed it, we are looking for my x-intercepts. Where am I crossing along the x-axis? Well, I'm crossing at negative 1 and 1. So at negative 1 and 1 are my solutions. So there are 2 solutions at both positive and negative 1. To solve your quadratic equation using square roots. So when we solve this one's a little bit easier because we don't have to create that graph. What we are going to do is as you can see here, we're adding a 75 to both sides. So our ultimate goal here is to get this x by itself. So draw a line to the equal sign, add 75 to both sides, which you can see they did here in red. We got 3x squared equals 75. We know we need to get x by itself, so we're going to divide by 3. 75 divided by 3 is going to give me my 25. So I have an x squared equals 25. I'm going to take the square root here of x. We're going to do one side, got to do the other. The square root of 25. And notice, we're going to have a positive and a negative answer here. Because both, when you take the square root of something, what this is really showing, I know we've already touched base on it, but just to review, whenever you square something, whether you have a negative or a positive answer, you can still get that. So here, my answer is going to end up being a positive negative 5, and I'm just going to revert back up and square both of these so you understand why we don't know if it's positive or negative. If I take negative 5 squared, or if I take a positive 5 squared, well, 5 times 5 gives me 25, so I understand why the 5 works. Now negative 5. A negative 5 times a negative 5, well, negative times a negative gives me still a positive 25. So that is why my answer is going to be both the positive and negative 5. So when it asks to solve, you solve for x, having to take the square root, and remembering that we are going to have both a positive and negative answer. That is all for today.